Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. We're going over Enzo Maresca's pre-match press conference ahead of the Brentford game tomorrow, where he gives massive injury updates. Chelsea are expecting a fine for the 74 FA charges. Chelsea are also scouting Robinho's son, and a deal has been agreed to sign Strasbourg striker Emegha. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. If you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. You can also use the hype button, which is a new YouTube feature which helps pushes these videos out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Matt Law has reported that Chelsea are confident they will avoid a points deduction after being hit with 74 FA charges over alleged breaches of agent payments. He continues to report Chelsea are waiting for their punishment but expect it to be a fine, comparable to the £8 million UEFA settlement that was agreed in 2023, rather than a sporting sanction such as points deduction or transfer embargo. Bobby Vincent asked Enzo Maresca if the players will be distracted over the 74 charges, and he says, "I don't think the players are too worried about the situation." He then continues to talk about his thoughts on the 74 charges, and he says, "I know from the club that they are satisfied about the process. Personally, I have nothing to add. I have no idea, to be honest. I want to focus on the pitch, something I can control." Firstly, silly question to be asking Enzo Maresca about how he feels about the charges and how the players feel about the charges, because they do not care. Why would they care? They would only care if it jeopardizes their job in terms of what they are doing, which is playing football, or Maresca managing and being a coach at Chelsea Football Club. And this is never going to affect that. So it's just a really random thing to ask the coach and the players about the situation. I know it's a hot topic. I know everyone was speaking about it because it's fresh off the press, so to say, but it makes no sense in that regard. However, from the club's perspective, we spoke about this in detail yesterday. Now, some of you really enjoyed it. Some of you really weren't bothered, and I hear you. Fair enough. I feel like a fine is probably going to be the most likely outcome. I said this in yesterday's video. I asked ChatGPT to break it down like I was a 5-year-old, and even said the most likely to the worst case scenario most likely was just a fine. It will probably be in line with something like the UEFA settlement. Is that the right thing to do? It's difficult to say. If you're a Chelsea fan, you'd say yes, because we've self-reported this. This is something before the previous ownership and all the troubles they had over 10 years ago and what wasn't reported. They could have quite easily swept it under the rug, but they haven't. They said this doesn't look right. Have a little look at it, let us know what the punishment will be. They even set money aside for this in case they knew there was going to be some sort of fine coming their way, but they feel very confident you're not going to get a points deduction or a sanction sort of in the transfer market, like another transfer embargo. I think that would be relatively harsh to punish us now for something that isn't even the same ownership, same team, same anything from 10 years ago. So I feel like it's not really news, but it is news, if that makes sense. Of course, people want to talk about the FA charging Chelsea with 74 charges, but a lot of fans are not reading between the lines where we actually reported this. We also prepared for this. Same thing with UEFA. We had that settlement. We were already prepared for that. So I don't feel like there's any massive pressures or anything that's going to come down on us unless there's some sort of weird left turn and we get hit with a book. But I really don't see the FA doing that. I feel like they're going to reduce the things that they could have done based on the fact that we brought that to them, the transparency of it all, the cooperation of it all, and then we could just kind of tick it off, get it paid, and move on with our lives. Because I feel like for the new owners that have found this is probably like bothering them and irking them a little bit, that they've bought this big club, they've got these conglomerates that are running it, and there's so many assets across the globe that have to be done above board, and they've found these payments, and rather than just sweep it under the rug, they have gone, yeah, we should probably get the FA to look into this and just kind of let them know, and then cool, we move on from that. We deal with the consequences. So yeah, I reckon it will probably be around that 8 to 15 million. I don't know. I can't see it being any more than that, really. Again, I don't really know. I'm not a lawyer. None of us are. We're just giving our thoughts and opinions, and I'm just reacting to what has been presented, right? So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Did you feel any sort of like anxious feelings towards these charges? And the other thing as well is the Man City charge is 115, completely different case, but that's still going on. It looks like nothing's going to be done about that as well. So I would have no reason to worry in Chelsea's position, because again, it's self-reported. It's not like we've been caught out doing something we shouldn't. We literally said this isn't right. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Did you feel like we might get a transfer embargo or a points deduction? We still could. There's just a very slim chance that is going to be the punishment, in my opinion. Or did you feel like it was just going to be a fine and we move on? Is it not that deep? Bobby Vincent asked Enzo Maresca on Cole Palmer's fitness, and he said Cole Palmer took part in the session yesterday for the first time, not the entire session. We have one more session this afternoon and we're going to try with him to see if he's okay, otherwise he will be out tomorrow. He goes on to say he is recovering from injury, it's not managing him, it's recovering from an injury. When he's available, we need to manage him because of the amount of games. Enzo Maresca then speaks on Reece James playing twice for England. In the moment that any player joins an international team, he is fit to play the minutes the manager think he has to play. It's not in my hands. When Reece is here, we try and manage him as best we can. Reece is showing he is quite fit to play 2 or 3 games in a week. Now, I put these two together because it's very, very important for very different reasons. When it comes to Cole Palmer, I think Enzo Maresca is spot on. It's not about trying to push him back into the team, force him back because we're relying on him. The whole team is on his shoulders. This is an injury. We have to make sure that we don't rush him back, because we've seen this with other players over the past where we rush them back and then they go out for even longer. I feel like Chelsea are in a very good position where we're not relying on Cole Palmer solely. Yes, he's a massive part. He's our best player. He's a massive part of the squad. But we have the players within the squad to adapt without Cole Palmer. For example, the West Ham game. Now, you may say that that's not the best example because West Ham are going to be relegation fodder this season. However, it is a good test. It's a great test for Chelsea to see how we can cope without Cole Palmer being in the team and playing. And we won by a big margin. All right, we went 1-0 down, we come back, and we just looked very, very frightening going forward. Will every game be like that? Probably not. However, I feel confident that Chelsea can fill that hole while Cole Palmer is not fit. And I don't think he'll be out for long. He may get some minutes against Brentford, but he might not start the game and play a full 90 because Enzo Maresca is a very smart man. We know this. He likes to manage minutes very, very well. And when we talk about Reece James, this is a stark difference because Reece James is currently on the longest stretch of fitness that he's been on for a long, long time. And that's hugely down to his recovery plans and also Enzo Maresca managing his minutes and easing him back into football. Now, we all want Reece James to play every minute of every game because of how good he is. And he did play both games in the international break and played very, very well. I think he even grabbed an assist, etc. He was awesome. But we want him to play for Chelsea. We don't want him to be playing on the international break. Now, firstly, thank Christ the international break is over because this is the one that feels like it goes on for about 4 years. Proper football is back, and I'm glad for that. But I'm also glad that Reece is still available and ready to play because he will be playing. Now he has a number of games under his belt from the start of the season. He can start picking up momentum. And if he's staying fit, which he seems to be so far, touch wood, there's no reason why he can't play more games this season than he did last. Enzo Maresca is right here. When it comes to internationals, he doesn't have a say on who plays and who doesn't. That's down to Thomas Tuchel. He is the England manager. It's down to the Brazilian managers and Ancelotti, who wants to pick Esteval, João Pedro, André Santos, etc. The list goes on with all like international players. So I think Enzo Maresca is not doing anything wrong. I think he's saying everything right. You know, he's going to manage his minutes as best he can. Obviously, club football is a lot longer through the year, and there's a lot more games, and there's a lot more day-to-day. So your club manager is going to understand you a bit differently, and they're going to manage you a lot more different than an international manager who is there periodically through the season and for like end-of-season tournaments, right? So, one, I'm happy for Reece to be playing more games as long as he stays fit, and he's showing that he's being able to stay fit for longer and play more games in a week, which is fantastic for Chelsea fans this season. Now we're back in the Champions League. So, look, if Enzo Maresca wants to manage his minutes so he plays in more vital games and games he thinks are less important for Reece to be playing full 90s for, I'm all for it. Same with Cole Palmer. I feel like we have the squad depth now to be able to cope without him. So if Enzo wants to manage his minutes in a way where he may not play as much while he gets back into his rhythm and then he goes into the first team, more than happy with that as well. And I don't even feel anxious about it. Yes, it's a massive loss because Palmer is incredible, but we have the players to cope without him this season where we didn't have the last few seasons. Enzo Maresca then speaks on Garnacho and he says he is working well. For sure, he needs to work because he arrived here not 100% fit. He needs to work. He is working well and we will see. Hopefully, we can give him minutes. Now, I just want to speak about this very briefly, specifically on Garnacho, because like I said to you across the summer, I wasn't particularly happy and over the moon that we were looking to sign him, but I'm very, very curious. And as time's gone on, as he's been a Chelsea player, and as I'm seeing more of that behind the scenes, the way that he's acting in training, the things he's been saying, things in the interviews, I am getting a little bit more excited and swaying that way because I want to see how well he does in a Chelsea shirt. And I always say, if you put on a Chelsea shirt, I'll back you until you give me a reason not to. I'm excited to see him play. I'm excited to see what he can do in an Enzo Maresca team for Chelsea because he obviously wanted this move massively. We spoke about the wages a few days ago and he's very, very low. It's not like he come here for big, big money. He obviously wanted this move. So I'm very curious. Now, I like the fact that Enzo Maresca is being very, very transparent because it lines up with what we've seen about Garnacho behind the scenes. He's saying he's not 100% fit and he's got to work hard. He's doing well. and we might be able to give him minutes, but he's still not 100%. And I rate that because Enzo Maresca isn't shying away from anything, saying he's going to, tear up trees and be unbelievable because he knows he's not ready. He's going to need to just get up to speed. Massive difference in training between Manchester United and Chelsea, just like there would be between, Liverpool, Arsenal, or any other club. It's just different processes, different trainings, different tactics you have to adjust. But the videos we've seen of Garnacho in training, it's been quite funny because he's been absolutely shattered. And the players that, I think it was like Wesley Fofana or Tosin, look at him saying, welcome to Chelsea, bro. Like, it's different here, like you have to adjust and get used to this, which is just a bit of friendly banter. But it's also letting him know, like, you have to work hard here. Not that he didn't have to work hard anywhere else, but it's definitely a step up, which is why he isn't 100% fit in Enzo Maresca's eyes. So I really like this. And I'm starting to get a bit more excited about Garnacho, and I am excited to see him play for Chelsea and see what he can do. And hopefully he can get some minutes against Brentford, because when we talk about the rest of this video, there's going to be a lot of players that may not be ready and available for selection. Enzo Maresca then speaks on the striker options, and he says the only number 9 is Guiu, and Guiu can also play there. Against Fulham, we use Tyreek as a number 9, so we can also think about him. Now, I really like this because I'm about to go on and speak about the South American players. It's very, very important what we go over in a second, because that's what's got a lot of question marks and opened my eyes a little bit in terms of what are we going to be doing tomorrow. And we'll go into it, but what he's basically saying is the only recognised 9 is Guiu, but Guiu can play there. We know how good João Pedro can be in the 9 and in a 10 so far in a Chelsea shirt. I'm fully expecting Mark Guiu to get a lot of minutes tomorrow and also get a lot of minutes within the next upcoming weeks with Liam Delap's injury. We were all expecting this. We recalled him for this reason because now it's a mixture between João Pedro and Mark Guiu. I'm hoping Guiu gets a start. I'm very excited to see what he can do in a Chelsea shirt, because the limited minutes we've seen him play in a Chelsea shirt, he's been exciting. He's been wanting to do well. He's been pressing. He's like a bulldog trying to bounce through people, trying to press very highly. And we know he's very raw, but I want to see how well he's developed. I really, really do. So I'm super happy for Guiu to be getting minutes, and I like that Enzo Maresca is recognising that he is the only number 9, but João can play there. And we also have Tyreek George, because his deal fell through, unfortunately, for him. Means that we can also use Tyreek George as a 9 when the game is right. I personally don't feel Brentford will be the best game to have Tyreek George as a 9 because they're very physical. However, Brentford have gone through a lot of changes. They lost their manager and a couple of their best players. A lot of people are writing them off and saying they should be relegation fodder. They're still going to be a tough team to play, but they are very, very different to the team we played last season. Enzo Maresca then speaks on the Buonanotte signing. He says, Buonanotte is a good player. He was at Leicester, so I had some contact there. He can help us. We've had so many competitions and games, so he will get minutes. Enzo Maresca then speaks about the South American players. He said the 3 Brazilian players arrived yesterday but didn't train. Moy arrived last night. I didn't see him. I will see him today. For all of them, it is a question mark for tomorrow. Where they play in Bolivia, it's difficult. Hopefully, they can be back soon. Now, this is the only concern I have with South American players when it comes to international duty. And I've mentioned this a few times, and you guys also let me know in the comments over this specific international break. Enzo Fernandez didn't play any games. Fair enough. So he should be ready to go. But I did say that there's a pattern that I've noticed in the last few seasons, that when we have an international break, you have Caicedo stuck straight into the mix. Occasionally, he has to come on the second half because he's maybe a bit jet-lagged or just needs to adjust again. But Enzo Fernandez usually takes a bit longer. He might not play that first game. He might come on that second game back after the international duty. Whether it's fitness, whether it's the amount of games they're playing, whether it's the jet lag, I don't really know. They're going halfway across the planet to play a couple of games in a few weeks and then coming back again. It's a lot for the body to adjust to. But now we have more South American players. We've got 3 Brazilians in Esteval, Santos, and João Pedro that have all, they've arrived yesterday but didn't train. So are they fit? Are they jet lagged? I don't know if this is like standard procedure. You've got Moy arrived last night. He's not even seen him. He's going to see him today. Now, we know how much of a beast Caicedo is, but Asugo is now out and injured. Romeo Lavia looks to be fit, maybe ready for selection. So we have a few options there. What happens to Enzo Fernandez? He wasn't really used in that international break, so is he ready to play? Because there's now massive question marks across our entire midfield. Who's going to play in that 10? We could use Buonanotte, who we just spoke about. Buonanotte is a strange one for me because it came out of nowhere. It's a dry loan, and I feel like it's just there as backup. Maybe it's backup to João Pedro as well as Cole Palmer, because in situations like this, maybe João Pedro can't start the game because of the jet lag or whatever the reasons are, coming back from international duty. We could see Buonanotte playing in the 10, Mark Guiu playing as a 9, and then seeing João Pedro come on later in the game. When it comes to the wide players, having the likes of Esteval maybe not quite ready to jump straight back in. We do have Pedro Neto, Tyreek George, Gittins, and Garnacho. We have some options there. And then when it comes to Moises Caicedo, we had Asugo, he's injured, but Romeo Lavia looks to be fit, so we may have an option there. Enzo Fernandez is being played. Amazing. That kind of plugs that gap as well. We've also got Andre Santos. Is he ready? Now, there's just a lot of question marks, and I agree with what Enzo Maresca is saying there. Like, hopefully they can be back soon. Hopefully they're ready. Because it could be a case that we're trying to rush them back because it's such a big change for them. But at the same time, they're professional footballers. They do this every season. Some of these have recently been called up to for the international team. Fair enough. But they've got very hectic schedules. They play all year round, and there's only going to be more games being crammed in. The only difference is there's less travel than there is for international games than there are for the club competitions and even European competitions within Champions League, right? But it's still a lot. So hopefully we have these players available. Otherwise, you're basically saying we have 5 players unavailable, which is most of our midfield and our strongest midfield set we can play against any team. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below regarding the Brazilians and the South American players in general. Do you feel like they'll be ready for selection tomorrow, or do you feel like we only see a number of them and some of them will be on the bench and maybe coming on and getting minutes later in the game? Enzo Maresca then spoke about the start to the season. He said, probably in terms of the players, I think there is always things we can improve. Improving players most of the time improves the team. The team, we start and add more solutions in the terms of structure, in terms of being dynamic. I think we can still add solutions. Enzo Maresca also spoke on the transfer window. He said, I think we have a good squad. My press conference 1 year ago, I said I was in love with the squad. So the squad was already really good. Since then, we have tried to make some changes, but overall, I think the squad is really good. He then goes on to talk about the Brentford challenge. He says, I think it's always a tough game. It was last year in both games. The Premier League is the best league in the world because against any club, it can always be tough. Tomorrow, we are expecting exactly the same. And this is what I was just saying a little bit earlier in the video. It's just tough to play Brentford, home or away. Chelsea have always struggled playing against Brentford. They play low blocks. They're very well drilled. Now, yes, like I said, they've lost Thomas Frank. They've lost a couple of their players, some of their best players. They are going to be a different team. They are going to be playing different tactics. But that doesn't mean that we're going to walk all over them, smash them 5-0. Hopefully we do. It'd be amazing to see. But I always feel like Brentford they're a very physical team and they're usually very well defensively drilled. So it's going to be one of those tough games where we're going to have a lot of possession, building it up round the back, side-to-side passing, trying to break down this low block. All I'm hoping is that the players that we have fit, ready and available can unlock that low block and we can get a couple goals up very early, because then it doesn't matter if they sit back. They then have to come at us. And if they do start coming at us, that's when Chelsea can tear teams apart in transition. And we know this and we see this when teams don't play a low block. So I'm hoping that, I know that Brentford's going to be a tough challenge. I am looking forward to it because, again, it's first game back after a massively long international break, which feels like 4 years long. And it's just going to be interesting. Is Buonanotte going to play in the 10? Who's going to be playing in those midfield pivots? Who's going to be playing as a 9? Is it going to be Guiu? Is João Pedro going to be playing? Who's going to play out wide? Like, how are we going to cope against this new style Brentford away from home? Obviously, we've got, 7 points on the board with 2 wins and a draw. We're still technically, still unbeaten at this point. Can we continue that run of form? I'm just super excited. So I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below about what Enzo Maresca said about Brentford. Do you think it's going to be an easy game? Do you think that we're going to struggle like we always do? And what are your thoughts on what Enzo Maresca said about the start of the season? Because I do agree. There are always solutions to be added, but I feel like this squad right now is stronger than the squad that we had at the start of last season. Kieran Gill has reported that Chelsea are keeping an eye on Robinho Jr, son of former Real Madrid and Man City star Robinho, with the South American scouting team led by Alison Marins, the former Corinthians chief talent spotter. Liverpool and other scouts are keeping an eye. This is very, very exciting. This is very exciting because we reacted to this a few days ago that Chelsea are interested in buying Santos and adding it to their multi-club rule. And a lot of you guys, I loved having the discourse because there's a lot about Santos I don't know. The inner workings of it, a lot of the history. All we see over this side of the world are the players that go through it. Your Pelés, your Neymars, your Robinhos, etc. We see those absolute gems come and then come across to Europe and have incredible careers, right? So a lot of you guys educated me in terms of how the club was structured and how Chelsea, your Blueco could help, change it financially, whatever. The one thing I said is it makes it a lot easier for Chelsea to sweep up these gems. Right, because it's a multi-club model. We're doing it with Strasbourg, and it looks like if we do, because it's just conversations, but if we did go for the Santos deal, we could also do it in that part of the world as well. Now, this is very, very interesting because Robinho Jr, not gonna lie, I don't know too much about him. I know that Robinho was a baller, so I'm guessing he's got at least some of those genes from his dad. And if Liverpool and other scouts are keeping an eye, and Chelsea keeping an eye, we know how good Chelsea are at talent scouting very young players because that's what they've been doing since they took over. That's what Roman Abramovich's talent scouts were doing for his whole duration as well, when we had the loan army where he would sign basically anyone that could kick a ball, loan them out for many, many years and try and sell them for profit. This is something Chelsea have been doing for like 20 years plus. But under the new ownership, there seems to be pathways for people. There seems to be plans for these players immediately after we sign them. And we're going to talk about the deal that's just been agreed for the Strasbourg striker because it kind of ties into that in terms of the pathways and structures and things. But the fact that Chelsea are keeping an eye on Robinho Jr. is very, very exciting. I'll, keep an eye out, see if there's any more updates. But that's very exciting news, especially for me. I feel like as much as Chelsea do go after kids and we do want some experience every and then, I feel like the experience in the team is actually from the players that have been here for a few years who were young. They're kind of learning on the job, but they've got to a point where they're building that experience, right? So when you're looking at players like Robinho Jr., there's just a lot of excitement that goes around that. There just is a lot of excitement because he's Brazilian, he's the son of Robinho, high expectations. He may not deliver. He may not be that like the kid that everyone thinks he's going to be. And that's happened before with other players that are sons of other players. But hey, hopefully he can continue to blossom. Chelsea can get in and basically sign him and we can see how his sort of future develops as a Chelsea player. We missed out on Robinho, right? I'm going to tell you a little story here. For some of you that care, some of you probably won't, and that's fine. I remember deadline day, before social media really took off, we had deadline day, and it was the deadline day that Robinho signed for Man City. And me and my high school best friend used to, on deadline day, we would sit there and we'd, have snacks, play games, whatever, but we'd always have it on and we'd be watching deadline day. We stayed up to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., I think it was, to see if Chelsea got the Robinho deal over the line or not, because he'd arrived in London and they hadn't, he'd arrived in London or arrived in Manchester. He'd arrived in the UK. And there was nothing really happening. And then the deadline deal goes, and then it kind of went on and on and on. And we're waiting for things to be confirmed. All these players were confirmed for the other clubs. And then it came out that Robinho had signed for Manchester City. And it broke me. I was so looking forward to Chelsea signing Robinho because what a baller. In terms of when we were going to sign him off the back of his Real Madrid sort of stint, oh, mate, I was so looking forward to that. So anyway, there's a bit about me and how I was heartbroken by Robinho signing for Man City, who then later come out and said he thought he was signing for Manchester United, which I always think is funny. However, we could sign his son. That's a full circle moment, so I am all for it. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Robinho Jr. and Chelsea keeping an eye on Santos in terms of the multi-club purchase and also Robinho Jr. and his skill set. Fabrizio Romano has reported an exclusive. Chelsea will sign Emanuel Emegha in 2026. Pre-agreement done. Here we go. Chelsea anticipate Champions League and Premier League clubs keen on Emegha as he wanted to stay at Strasbourg, lead them in Europe, and then to join Chelsea on a 7-year contract from 2026. And then Chelsea then confirmed and announced that Chelsea Football Club has agreed a deal to sign striker Emanuel Emegha from Ligue 1 side RC Strasbourg, with the Dutchman officially joining in 2026. This is amazing news. Now, we spoke about this briefly, parts during the transfer window, and there was also a video a few days ago around Emegha, how Chelsea sort of really eyeing him up, think he's going to do well. They want to see how he does at Chelsea. He had a very good year at Strasbourg, a good development year, kicking on. Was very vital in Strasbourg climbing the league table last season. I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched every single minute of him, but I have watched a handful of games of him, and he looks like a very promising forward. Obviously, going from Ligue 1 across the Premier League, massive, massive step up. But this is Chelsea learning from their mistakes, in my opinion. I'd love to know your thoughts down below. They don't want another sort of position where we look to go into a season and then someone gets injured and we are clambering and scrambling to get more squad depth. This is Chelsea's third choice striker who will be fighting for the first team positions as of next year. You're going to have Liam Delap, João Pedro, who can play there, Emegha, and Marc Guiu. Now, Marc Guiu is obviously back to, he has this opportunity to prove himself, kick on and develop for sure. But will he be loaned out next season or will he be staying? And then you've got Emegha coming in, who is looking to come in and start playing for Chelsea. The club have even said, we're very excited to see what he could do for Chelsea or in the Premier League in general. So whether the plan is to sell him for a profit later down the line, which I don't think it is with a player like Emegha because of how much sort of shine Chelsea have taken to him across the Strasbourg season, and especially now signing a pre-agreement for him to come across next year and having this sort of plan of we want to see what he does in the Premier League. Or is Marc Guiu going to be the one that he fights for that position for the third choice striker? Or is Enzo Maresca then going to modify the squad slightly to play João Pedro as less of a 9 across the season, more of a 10, more off the left-hand side, and then have Delap, Guiu and Emegha as the 3 striker options? Only time will tell. Only time will tell, but I'm very, very excited about this signing because This then just confirms what I was saying during the transfer windows. You need 3 strikers in a squad throughout a season. Now, yes, he signs next year, and a lot of things can happen. But as of right now, we finished a transfer window. Nicholas Jackson then went on loan to Bayern Munich, and then Delap got injured, and Chelsea were like, what do we do? They recalled Mark Guiu. We were saved by the fact that Sunderland were willing to let that happen. Thank you very much. Mark Guiu's going to get a golden opportunity now until Delap is back, which is looking like mid-November, probably December, probably the start of the year before he starts starting games again, really. And now Chelsea have gone out there and gone, right, other clubs are going to be interested. Let's snap him up right now. He's done, pre-agreement done. Next season, we've got him coming in. So they're it's a fail-safe, right? And he's also a good player from what I've seen. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert and seen every minute of he's played, because I haven't. But from what I have seen, he looks like a very exciting player who's going to kick on and just develop into a very, very good forward. So no official numbers have been released in terms of how much we spent and things like that. I don't really know. I'm assuming, if I was just to wildly guess, I would say it's probably going to be around the 12 to 15 million euro mark. I don't know. That's just me guessing, but I'd love to know your thoughts down below regarding the signing of Emegha. Do you think this is a good move from Chelsea? Do you think this is a panic buy? Do you think this is a good use of the multi-club model where we can kind of basically swap players between clubs at any given moment? What are your overall thoughts about this transfer? Do you feel like there is a future for Emegha at Chelsea as of next year, depending on how the centre-forward cycle goes this season? I'm very curious to know your thoughts. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. And secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.